it's hard for him to get to the States and defend his title or his former title, but like,
yeah, but you could tell just from his last performance, just take a look at his body and the time that he put, it's kind of going off onto the latter stage of the career.
Yep. This is, his life is moving on to something else now. Yep. It's already taken over, and you can see that. I think Linton Vassell, though, has a good chance to make a really good and tough run. This is in that mix. You got Fedor. He's got one more fight. Look, there's one more fight on his contract. I think you're going to end up seeing. I look forward to making that fight happen in Moscow on a big stage, big situation for him for his farewell fight, and that would be it. Moldavsky is his runner-up. You got Czech Congo, who's still in that mix, believe it or not. And, but we're going to see what happens with the Ryan Bader and Moldavsky fight in the interim champion and the champion. So, next.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with Bellator light heavyweights.
This is the weight class right here, dude. This is the one, because you can take a look at everything that's happened, and they have the tournament. Even after this tournament, no matter if Vadim Nemkov beats Corey Anderson or Corey Anderson beats Nemkov, you still have some great fights here that need to take place. But people need to get healthy. Anthony Rumble Johnson coming back, taking a look at Yoel Romero and what he's going to do and stuff. There's all kinds of what ifs in here. Phil Davis is still looking very good and just performing very well at this point. So, Corey Anderson against Phil Davis is another one you're looking at as far as possible matchups. This division is still, even though they've got the Grand Prix playing out with Vadim going against Corey, whoever wins it, there's still some good fights and matchups in there that need to be seen to really say, this guy, he's the number one.
Look, I'm going to throw a huge wrench in this whole thing. Whoever wins this tournament needs to fight Gegard Mousasi. That's it. Whoever wins this tournament, that's the only fight I want to see. I want to see Gegard fight the winner of this tournament. That's what I want to see. I'm so mad that Gegard wasn't in this tournament. He should have been in it.
Yeah. He should have been.
Should have been.
You're right.
All right, well, hey, that's going to wrap up our first show of 2022. It feels so weird to say that.
God damn, we're old.
We are old.
Oh, no, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm old.
But before we get started, before we leave you guys, before we get started on this new 2022 new year, we want to say thank you guys for all the support you've given us. But let's get ready to tackle this year. Let's grow this show. Let's share our content. Let's hit the subscribe button. Share all of our stuff. Look, hit our audio feeds. Okay, on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. Hit us up on there as well and listen to us in traffic. We want to thank you guys so much for supporting us, and let's crush this 2022, Big John. Let's do it.
Killing it. Everybody out there, have a phenomenal year. Do something great, and do something great for somebody else if you get the chance. You get the chance. We will all see you later.
UFC 269 is in the books, and on this 14th of December 2021, we are going to take a look at The Sugar Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Technical Difficulties. This is the podcast where I examine some of the best fighting action from some of the... UFC 269 is in the books, and on this 14th of December 2021, we are going to take a look at The Sugar Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Technical Difficulties. This is the podcast where I examine some of the best fighting action from some of the weekend's best fights. My name is Luke Thomas. You might know me from CBS Sports or Showtime. This is my personal channel, and I'm a shooter. I'll show you around like a chaperone. All right, so on today's program, as you can obviously tell here, UFC 269 already in the books, a ton of great fights from there. This may not be the only fight that I look at from this card in greater detail, but I want to look at The Sugar Show. Why? Because he is polarizing for audiences. He is interesting to cover as a guy in media in mixed martial arts for a lot of different reasons. He's obviously quite talented, but we haven't seen him tested against the very best yet, so that leaves a lot of questions. And when we've tried to figure out exactly how talented he is, what is he good at, what is he not, it creates a lot of drama, creates a lot of controversy, creates a lot of questions. For today, I'm not going to be able to give you an affirmative answer in very clear terms about exactly how good he is and who he could beat. But I think after watching this, you will have a somewhat clearer picture of the kind of talents that he has to offer and who might be in his peer group along the way. Okay, so as always, first things first, if you're watching this on YouTube, about the only place I'm gonna put it, thumbs up on the video, hit subscribe. If you are new, please do so. And without further ado, let's take a look at how the Sugar Show works. Now, before we begin, standard disclaimer, I don't present this to you to be the best findings or the only findings or the most complete findings. These are just my findings, for better or for worse. I always encourage you, to hear what other analysts have to say. I'm gonna add one more note to these disclaimers from now on. This is just tape study. None of this should be taken as advice on how to fight or as fight-related information that you can take and then use. If you want to learn how to fight, go to a qualified gym and a qualified instructor and go train. Okay, with that out of the way, let me explain. Again, some of these, I may miss some. Some of these you'll also note that there's a little bit of overlap between them. I only identify them in this way as like things to highlight or pay attention to, but you get the idea. Okay, first things first, freeze and split. What do I mean by this? You'll look at some of the numbers in a second, but one of the objectives of how he maneuvers around the octagon or sets up shots is a lot of jagged motion. We'll talk about some of that in a moment here, but a lot of lateral motion side to side, a lot of in, a lot of out, and a lot of feinting that goes along with it. Feinting as he wants to move into places, like if he's coming with his back off of the fence, he'll feint his way back to the center as he moves, right, to keep his opponents off of him. He's constantly keeping Paiva, in this particular case, who he fought, obviously, UFC 269, Raulian Paiva. He's constantly keeping him off balance. This steady drumbeat of all the different feints he has, whether they are hip feints, step feints, whatever you may see on the information we provide here, it has this effect of reducing what Paiva can do because he is waiting around or doesn't know what he's looking at or thinks he sees one thing and sees another. And the ultimate product of that is A, he misses a lot, and B, he just doesn't throw a lot. He gets caught looking because he doesn't have a clear target. When he thinks he does, then it's gone. It has this overall effect of making him, in certain cases, stop in motion, but then overall frees him from actually being more active is the other part. And then to split. What do I mean by split? You're gonna see this a lot. Dude, Sean O'Malley's timing is good. It's very good. At least in this fight, it was excellent. He splits the timing of Raulian Paiva consistently in this fight. What do I mean by splitting the timing? Again, if you're new to this program, this may be new to you. If you're not, you've heard me say this a million times. Fighters and humans tend to move on certain rhythms and beats, and if you can establish a certain beat, you don't want to attack them as they are working on the beat. You want to get in between, like that, right? It's the in-between space that you're trying to find. He does that so well, and part of it is because he would freeze Paiva. Paiva is like doesn't know what he's looking at, or he's waiting, or trying to figure out when opening is going to be provided. He might step a halfway and then look another way, and then he gets caught in between the motion. Happens all the time, and both of those serve to constantly force him to reset. Number two, rhythm changes. I talked about this on my podcast for Morning Combat, the Extra Credit podcast. You're going to see some evidence of this. Dude, most championship level fighters in the UFC don't even do this, right? Where, what is a rhythm change? You'll see him provide a series of different looks to his opponent, and they come with different postures and different stances. One might be low, where he's got his head leaning out forward as a target, and he's kind of stationary, and he might move in and out, but he's staying low with it. His feet are shuffling as opposed to bouncing, and then he'll kind of stand up. Sometimes he'll bring his hands around his waist, and you'll see him maneuver around the octagon, and then with it, he's got a completely different way in which he is maneuvering. His stance is different. He's up tall, he's bouncing as opposed to low and crouched. And there's actually more rhythm changes than just that. He'll even change the nature of his timing and rhythm within the style he's incorporating, right? So he'll speed it up and slow it down, or just change it altogether. But either way, he's giving you some different rhythms. I can't be clear about this. A lot of fighters in UFC don't do this, or they'll do it but quite poorly, or it's new to them and they don't quite sell it all that well. He does it kind of effortlessly. Now I know what you might be saying, okay, but he's fighting the Raulian Paivas of the world, who are talented fighters worthy of our respect, but by no means the very best in that division. Fine, I don't know exactly what better fighters may or may not do. All I can tell you is I know fighters in the UFC who try this, who could have a much lower level of competition, and they still wouldn't necessarily incorporate these rhythm changes as effortlessly and quickly as he does it. In fact, it's somewhat hard for me to show because sometimes he'll do it for short bursts, sometimes he'll do it for long bursts, but he's switching things up so consistently that there's not necessarily long periods of time where he's in one and then another. He's constant changing. There are a couple times where he gets a little bit in one note with it, but for the most part, he's changing his rhythm constantly in this fight, and that is very disruptive. You are adding a dimensionality to your game. People think it's all about what stance are you in and which way you're circling. We'll add that in. So he can circle both directions, he can do it from either stance, and then he can add in different rhythm and stance positions that correspond to these rhythm changes on top of that. That's a level of dimensionality in the striking game that is fairly rare even at the elite level. Less so, actually it's pretty common in boxing. But in MMA, it's quite new, and he's at the front end of it, at least for the bantamweight division. 3, weaponized motion and feints. Dude, he uses motion constantly, either to lure Paiva into a place where he can then get him lined up for some kind of straight punch that he's looking for. He does this all the time, whether he's going left or whether he is going right, whether he is in southpaw, or whether he is in orthodox. Motion, right? He doesn't, like Jose Aldo kind of stands there and then like gets out of the way of a punch and then comes around or has some kind of attack with it. He's rarely doing that. There's a couple times where he'll do like a nice stabbing jab with planted feet, but in general, it's this sweeping motion that Paiva is trying to follow and having a ton of problems with it. Also the feints. Let me just say this very explicitly. Again, I'm not exactly sure who Sean O'Malley is going to ultimately beat inside the octagon, but what I can tell you is he sells his feints, right? How convincing is his acting? Very. He is very good at feinting. Very good at feinting doesn't just mean you use them a lot. It means the salesmanship on it is very convincing. When he steps to one direction, his opponents really think he's going there. When he jabs low, but doesn't really jab low because it's actually, he's faking. You can throw fakes in there as well. Whatever the case may be, a short feint, opponents bite on it because he's actually good at selling it. He's good at manipulating his body in such a way that opponents think he is doing X, when in fact X is a decoy for Y. His ability to make his decoys convincing is extremely good, and it's integral to the part of his game, right? Along with motion. Sean O'Malley doesn't just, sometimes he'll throw nakedly or whatever, but you'll see on the tape, man, the guy is doing a ton of feinting and motion to create openings, not am I trying to always thread the needle. Sometimes you need to thread the needle, but if you can just create more blatant openings, why wouldn't you, especially if they're on your terms, for quick position offense. Here is something that I picked up on the tape that maybe I hadn't picked up on before in watching O'Malley. Dude, he is quite good at understand what's happening with him. He's switching stances, he's going left, he's going right, he's, sometimes he's leaning in, again, the whole rhythm change. So you got a lot of different looks. What I noticed with him is that you'll see sometimes UFC fighters play with stance change. And there's a lot of ways where it could be beneficial. Sometimes you do it, let's say if you're backing out of a combination, you'll move to southpaw as your opponent is bearing down on you. That switch might end up deterring them. They don't want to really go against you in that stance, in that context for whatever reason. You see it all the time, as a matter of fact. So it can have like a ton of different ways in which it can work for you. But the thing you might notice is they'll have a dominant stance and then they'll go to their less dominant stance. And they can sometimes get going in that less dominant stance, but it takes them a little bit of time. Here's what is so interesting about Sean O'Malley. He'll be working like this, whatever, and then he'll switch this way. Now hands will come up. By the way, I don't even list it here. Hand position is another crucial one. He'll cheat hand position. I mean that as a compliment, in all kinds of unique ways that his contemporaries just never see coming. But the point I wanted to make is he'll be switching stances and which direction he's going to, and then he'll settle into one for a little bit of a longer time frame. We're talking just a few more seconds. But what I mean to say is he can switch between these positions and then get his offense cooking right away. He doesn't need a lot of time to settle into this position to get loose and warm with it again. He can go southpaw, circling to his left and whatever, and he'll find offense within seconds of switching to it. And then he'll switch to the other side or whatever. And it's the same thing. A lot of guys have imbalanced offense where they can't easily find range or set up their weapons with a stance switch as nimbly as they can with their dominant side. Dude, you'll watch him switch, and then within moments, he's already found the distance, and then he goes. He doesn't need, the window for him, once he has moved into some kind of position, the window for him to establish how far away you are and how quickly he can attack is very, very narrow. And that is significant, obviously, because the more you can be fight ready and offensively potent over the course of a round, or then 2 rounds, or 3 or 4 or 5, obviously the more damage you can do. He makes reads on his distance judgment in this fight was excellent. And so because of that, and because he is so nimble with everything, he'll switch to southpaw and he's got offense right away. He'll switch to orthodox, he's got offense right away, whether he is changing up rhythms or going forward, going backward, doesn't matter. He's got really quick ability to find offense in all of these positions. So just think about that over time. His offense doesn't have to go from hot to cold. It just kind of stays pretty hot the whole time. And then lastly, he likes to draw and then attack responses. This is all part of rhythm changing and feinting and motion and everything else. But what you'll often see is that sometimes he'll throw something where the guy is just, maybe lightly following him or whatever, is not really throwing. But a lot of times what he likes to do is to draw a reaction. Daniel Cormier kind of hinted at this. He'll get one, he'll get out of the way, and then he'll fire 2, 3, 4 back on top of it. He's very good at eliciting a response and then having some kind of predetermined attack against it. In fact, that's exactly how we set up the ending, which I'll explain here in just a little bit, okay? All right, so with that in mind, this is Howley and Paiva's numbers. We alluded to the fact that a guy like Sean O'Malley absolutely lowered the overall volume of what Paiva gets going. Paiva is usually anywhere from the high teens to the mid 30s with his overall volume. But the way they explained it was, again, this is for Howley and Paiva, he lands about 4 strikes a minute and he absorbs about 5. First of all, not a great set of numbers. First of all, that's one thing I'll point out here. Not trying to be difficult, just saying it's not. And then the other part is, what actually happened in the fight, right? So you got 4 landed per minute, and then you got 5 absorbed per minute. So this fight went almost 5 minutes, not quite, but he should be around, right? 20 strikes landed per minute. He should be around 25 strikes absorbed, somewhere around that, okay? So 20 and 25 roughly is what you're looking for. Here's what ended up actually happening. If you guys can't see this, look at this. He only landed 11, which is far lower than even his average, right? Because he's supposed to be landing 5. He's supposed to be absorbing 4, right? Did I have that right? Hold on, whoops. Yes, he's landing 4, absorbing 5. Here, he's only landing 11 of 47 in about 5 minutes, so he is well off of his average. And O'Malley landed, O'Malley landed 39. So not only was he doing less work, he was actually getting hit more on average in either direction. He was both landing less and getting hit more relative to his historical averages. In fact, that 11 of 47, that's his second worst statistical round in his entire UFC experience. He has only 1 round. It was a fight he lost inside of a round previously that is worse than this. This is, for any other fight, this is the worst round he's ever had. So keep that in mind. One of the things that constantly freezing and splitting someone's timing does and forcing these resets, it can be quite potent. Last thing on these numbers here, and then we'll go on to some of the more footage. Blue is Sean O'Malley, red is Howley and Paiva. This is what they were targeting here. You can see he could barely ever target and touch the head of Sean O'Malley, the body and the leg, but even then there wasn't a ton of leg kicks, in part because of the movement, in part because of the jab, the long range distance, all kinds of stuff. By the way, a guy like O'Malley is, not only does he discover distance quickly, but his use of it, like he can cover distance quite well. But for Sean O'Malley, I said on Morning Combat Extra Credit that he didn't do a ton of body work. He had headhunted a little bit, and the numbers kind of speak to that. It's true he didn't fire a ton of punches to the body, but it's actually a little bit unfair to say what I said because he does attack the body with his legs. Did a lot of teeps, both from the southpaw and orthodox stance. So that actually accumulated, and then in that final combination, he did some great body work to lower it. In fact, doing some of the body work, or at least faking to the body, ended up setting up the right hand that caused all the problems. Okay, so that's my preamble. That's some of the number, excuse me. Let's take a look at some of the broader information that we have. All right, here we go. Short fight, less than a round, about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, but still some good information available to us. So here we are, beginning of the first round. There's only one round, of course. He starts out in orthodox. He starts out in orthodox. So you have two orthodox fighters meeting in the center. Pay attention to what he does here, right? So he is automatically, this one comes behind. They're not bringing it together, right? So he is now angling off. So now he can angle a little bit more this way. And then watch what he does. He's going to take a double step as he comes around. It's a little bit of a feint right there as he turns the corner, and then switches right when he gets there, and then feints again to back him off. So we started out over here in this position. He worked his way around and then worked forward, all by virtue of understanding distance, you know, just sort of normal footwork patterns coming around this way. But he doesn't just try to walk into that space. Every time he's trying to get and cross over like this, you see as he tries to reset the angle, almost crosses his feet there. Yeah, it gets pretty close. But the point being is, he's not doing it nakedly. He's not just walking into space. He's walking into parts of space and then adding in these feints that get Paiva to stop and then back up in ways that give him room, so then he can just get to where he wants, switches, and then immediately double steps like that, right? You can see that's sort of the feint here. Real quickly, one more time, watch it. Once he gets here, watch him. Dot right there. You can see him dart in and out. Okay, we move along. Here he's getting backed up. We are in southpaw. This is some of that body work I was talking about. Not only is this body work and it brings the hands down and all of the things that we know, I have a strong belief, and all strikers are like this, but I have a very strong belief, he needs to land very few of these to know how far apart an opponent is. He has a very good sense of exactly where opponents are and where they're going to be. He doesn't need to find a lot of feelers to get going. So this has all the benefits of landing to the body, bringing the hands down, and of course, as we know, it's a distance gauger. All I want to point out is, I've seen strikers have to land a lot of these, 7 or 8 of these sometimes. Maybe that's a little high, but you get the idea. He just needs 1 or 2 and he's ready to go. It's pretty amazing, watch. So he stays, he's not gonna throw a big here, but you'll see over the course of the time. All right, a little bit further past, right? He's gonna watch what he does, right? He steps into range, immediately drops, feints low, changes the angle a little bit. He's gonna step forward just a little bit as he does it. Paiva comes in, he puts his hand up to re-center himself and then throws another teep to the body, and again, has the same kind of reaction, right? By the way, he nearly catches it, but you can see he presses through, O'Malley does, to get away. All right, here we are a little bit later. Paiva switches stances here a little bit. Now he gets into orthodox. Boom, and you can see he mistimed it. Looked like he was maybe trying to come up for a shot to the dome, and he was a little too close and he kind of misjudged it. But I want to point out something. Before we were in southpaw, now we are in orthodox, same rear leg teep, or maybe he was trying to go up high and kind of misjudged it. Hard to say, but it keeps Paiva off of him. Paiva tried to catch it. You can see right away O'Malley framing on one side, trying to get his hips away. It looks like he's running, but it's actually quite important. Then he faces, and watch this part, he's going to dig the underhook right there, and then he doesn't want to get his back pushed up against the fence, so what does he do? He circles off and then pushes Paiva away. It's nice work. 420 here. How appropriate, right? Here we go. From southpaw, what's he doing? Now watch the rhythm change here. Bouncing, 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 step and get low. See that? See how he just completely changed before he's here? And yeah, some of that is him shaking it out. Some of that is him, just being far enough apart to kind of reset a little bit. Part of it is just for him, but also part of it is to give the opponent a lot of different looks. Like, again, go back here. Watch what he's doing. Paiva's got his hands up. He's ready to go. He doesn't really move. His rhythm doesn't really change, but watch the rhythm of O'Malley. Here, one more time. Bounce, 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 step out, lower, and then he's onto something new. He'll do this all the time. Now, this is a short sequence, but you'll see this kind of thing throughout the round. Here he is getting jagged with it. Then he comes up high. Like, look at the rhythm change here. Look, he's bouncing up in here. Then he goes down. He is stationary with these jagged feints. He goes back to being tall for a second. Now the hands are up, right? And he's trying to get a sense of when, he likes to do this thing where he'll step in and touch, particularly from the southpaw side where it's glove control, it's measuring where the guy is at, also drawing the reaction out, see what he can do. He touches, he gets hit with a leg kick. He keeps moving here. We're in a few seconds ahead. There's that head feint, and it completely works. You can see Paiva reacts to it. So then he tries this darting left, right? So what's he doing? He's moving this direction. He's side to side with his shoulders. He's in and out with a foot feint. And he tries to, clear this off, tries to get the lead hand to get a bite and then fake it, but he's too far away, right? He hasn't quite got the distance just yet. But he's moving, right? And part of it is, go back here, 412. Leans in, gets a reaction, and then thinks he found the distance, but can't quite get it. I want to point out something here. Again, look at Paiva. Paiva stays in motion here. Doesn't really change anything, but stays in motion. So I just want to point out, like, he's beginning to pick up exactly where he is, using motion, using jagged feints, and then anticipating some of the reactions from Paiva to those feints, to those fakes, and then building offense on top of it. We keep going. A few seconds later, there he is bouncing again. Then he stops and starts to shuffle. Boom, look at the jab. I want to point out something, right? They're both kind of bouncing. O'Malley takes a step forward, but his back foot stays in place. So look how much he can lunge forward if he has to, right? He can lunge in there. And then Paiva takes a step. He sees that immediately and pops him for it. And again, back foot off the ground. So he timed the front step with a feint where it looked like he took a step and didn't, right? He kept the back foot there, so now he can plant, and it looks like he might be closer. So when Paiva comes closer, he actually has a better sense of the distance and then can hit him with the cross. Actually, this is the jab, right? Hit him with the jab here. I apologize. It's the nearest one. And this one doesn't land. It lands pretty good. It kind of falls off a little bit there because he got a little bit closer. And then notice as he jabs, he changes angles. So he makes this triangle, right? Bop, bop. Look at that. So now he's attacking you from a new angle, and he just circles around, threatening constantly, forcing Paiva to turn. And when Paiva is turning, foot in the air, guess where that jab is? Right in his face. Splitting his timing. He just misses. I mean, just misses. But you can see the timing and the distance are coming along. So what are we doing here with all of this stuff, right? We're changing rhythms. We're stopping, getting him to react. We're seeing him react. Boom, splitting the timing. Foot is in the air as he comes through. Changing angles all the way through. Forcing Paiva to turn. So Paiva has to play catch up because he's leading the angle turning. Paiva tries to play catch up, and as soon as he squares or moves to be square, foot in the air, the jab's already flying. It just misses. This is good work, man. Good work. We're not even out of the first minute. And you can see already he's got Paiva playing catch-up, right? We move along. There he is. Watch him. Feinting low, getting a reaction from Paiva, right? Feinting low again, and then this time coming up to the jab. See that? It's hard to tell here, but you can see that little stutter step right there. Hands are about here. He stutter steps right there. Paiva reacts, and then as soon as Paiva comes forward, watch Paiva, he's moving this way, but then Paiva stops to take a step forward and then eats it as a consequence. Boom. And he almost caught him right in the middle of his strikes, or his steps as well, splitting his timing. Here he is again. Here's that one look, right? This look. Not the same as this look, or even this look, or even this look. It's this one, right? He's got a lot of different looks, a lot of different rhythms and spaces he moves in between. Here he is, right? He waits for Paiva to step because he's planted. This foot is planted. This is the one that's always in motion, right? Typically. Well, not always, but in this particular case. He plants, he goes back, Paiva is in motion forward, and then double pumps, right? Let me see this one more time. Pump. There it is. Cheats the distance with it. So he steps wide here, right? He's going to pump once, hands come out, and then he steps through. This is what I mean when I talk about selling it. He understands that Paiva's in motion. He needs him. If he's going to be at least 1 foot planted, He needs Paiva to move into range, so he feints him to draw a reaction as he continues to move forward, or at a bare minimum, he stops him where he wants him to stop because he has to stop to put his hands out. As he stops to put his hands out, he is planting himself in just the right range for, boom, for O'Malley to do this. Plus the hand is kind of low, might be hard to see. Different stances, different rhythms, different weapons, different looks. It's a lot to handle when you fight Sean O'Malley. Pops him. And again, he doesn't pop and stay, he pops and moves. Motion, motion, motion. There's your feinting again. He gets a reaction from Paiva. I mean, he's got this guy biting on everything at this point, right? All right, so it looks like he's moving this way from orthodox. Feinting again. Gets a reaction, right? And let's say he tries to circle the front hand here. Let me see. Jab. Yeah, he jabs kind of to the chest area, right? Probably has like a rangefinder or a decoy. He eats a leg kick or gets out of the way of one. But now he has gone to a different spot. I want to pay attention to something. This is the beginning of the end, actually. So here he is this way. He's going to move so he can he can get to a different line of attack. So now he's this way, right? Pay attention to this. We already saw real close. There's the jab hand of O'Malley. Hard to see if he's controlling the backhand or not here. It's not a great angle, but he realigns himself up. And I want to point out something here. Fakes like he's going to the body, right? Paiva thinks he's going to the body again, or maybe even jabbing upstairs, and instead he's going to loop this around. Watch this shot. He just misses. I mean, just misses. And it's set up from the fact that he is jabbing and moving, resets the angle, right? And then looks like he's going to go to the body, and instead comes right over the top. He's tricking him by his levels and where he's going for things. I didn't put all of them in here. He does throw some crosses and jabs to the body, which in part helped up with selling this, because Paiva is convinced this is going to his body, and he gets very lucky that this misses. Obviously it didn't matter in the end, but in this particular moment, because you could see O'Malley, dude, you see what I mean when I say he's making reads very quickly? Maybe he hasn't landed that thudding shot yet, but he is right on top of it every time he moves into any one of these situations. And then, by the way, he gets out of it right away. A little bit later. By the way, here it is. Cross to the body. See what I mean? And the hands come out. Paiva was expecting that just a minute ago. That right hand is the same right hand he uses to land that one punch that closes the show. They're all connected. They're all connected because he's waiting to find this moment. He's got the range down almost immediately. Just a few fine tweaks to it, and then he's off to the races. And he's out again. Southpaw. There's that feint, right? Watch. Bop, there's the feint. And now he's up on his toes, hands around his waist. He tries for a darting left as he is lining up that left for wherever Paiva's going to be. He tries it from way far out, nothing set up. Doesn't really get a whole lot on it, gets out of the way. And then as Paiva tries to, look at Paiva, he's square. Paiva has to turn to get back to his normal stance, and as he does, O'Malley tries to pop him one more time. This is the fist of O'Malley, and just misses. But again, he's right on, just a couple more tweaks, and this is basically over. Boom, and he's out of the way. Here we are again. Look at Paiva. Like, come on, dude. Watch who does this look like, what he's about to do? Sugar Sean, what's this look like? Who's that? Looks a lot like Israel Adesanya to me, right? Like not running into position, stopping, and using a lot of hip feints. He did a lot of those against Romero. So they start over again. Here comes O'Malley. Boom, same thing. Teep to the gut from orthodox this time. These ones weren't quite as effective as they were from the southpaw side, but it just tells him exactly where he's at and what he needs to do, and he makes a good read. And again, more of that body work that contributed. Here he is again. Look at the stance difference right now. He's low, hands out in front. You don't see a whole lot of those necessarily from him. Here comes Paiva, nearly foot to foot with him. You're going to see him back out, switch stance to deter forward pressure. Glove control, right? So he's measuring exactly where he is. Sees that left hand all day. We've talked about it with Volkanovski. If I can control and even pin your hand to you, I might have a clear sense of where you are trying to throw from on that left side, or when you throw, I have a clear sense about when it's coming. Look at O'Malley. He has all the time. He sees that coming a million miles away, and then just tries to step back at an angle to give himself time for this left hand. I mean, again, just nearly misses. Just nearly. He is coming so close every time. Here we are a little bit. Look again. Look at him using motion. Left to right, left to right. He goes this way. This means he's going to come back, just like that. And when he does, when Paiva catches up, he lines up the cross usually, or sometimes the jab to hit him. Let's see. Paiva is now back. When Paiva moves forward, he's going to wait for Paiva to move forward a little bit, like that. Here we go. Now,
fans.
Right.
But
That makes sense.
Sometimes though, it hurts the end product, and the reason why I'm here is the stand-up comedy.
Right.
If that starts to slack, then everything else falls apart.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I've learned over the years what the mistakes are, like where I can screw it up. Like podcasts, for instance, I don't do like I used to do like a hot yoga class at 10:30. It gets out at noon. I do a podcast at 1. I don't do that anymore because I found I was just too fucking worn out.
Yeah.
Because I do a 90-minute yoga class, and I come in here and I'm still like, oh yeah, what are we talking about? Like, I'm still spacey. I need 2 hours. I need 2 hours, and I need to drink a shitload of water, and then I'm good to go. But I need that extra hour. So now I'll do like an 8:30 class or something like that, or maybe even a 6 in the morning class. And so when I have a 1 p.m. podcast, I'm fucking completely acclimated.
Yeah.
But I had to do that by trial and error.
Absolutely, and that's where I'm at. I think I'm trying to figure out what the balance is of creating a life outside of stand-up and then giving all I can to stand-up. And even I do a podcast with Pete Corielli that we did a live podcast for the first time. And I don't know if you've seen this. The podcast listener is a different audience than what's arriving at my shows. Two different audiences. There's a definite podcast listener out there. I mean, people that listen and consume podcasts, and it crosses over. Don't get me wrong. But I went to do the podcast in Orlando, and totally different vibe. It's nice to see who the hell is listening to this stuff.
Yeah.
And we did it, and I don't know if you've ever done a live cast, but I'm sure you're like an anomaly. You got like fans from all different walks of life. I mean, you're in the stand-up world, you're in the mixed martial arts world, you're in the podcast world, so there must be a lot of different people coming to your shows. No?
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos. Yeah. I would say if you see a dude with shaved head and tattoos and he's kind of jacked, he probably knows who I am. But it's like a lot of people that are into the science podcasts or the podcasts with interesting intellectuals. There's a lot of but there's just people that don't like the mixed martial arts stuff, and they like me for other things. You know, it's hard. You can't please everybody.
No, you can't.
It's not really possible. And then along the way, you find that out, and you piss a bunch of people off. They're like, I don't like that part of you. Like, oh, okay, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy.
No, but especially if you do a lot of shit, But I'm lucky with the job with the UFC that they don't really care about the other things that I do. Because if I was working for a more sensitive organization, obviously it's a fucking cage fighting promotion. It's like, how sensitive can you get?
Yeah.
But with some social issues, it's like if I was working for the NBA, I'd probably have been fired a decade ago.
Yeah, it's
easily.
The MMA is definitely or the UFC is definitely an animal in itself. How did you get into that position? Did you know Dana White and you started? For you, I always wanted to ask you this at the Comedy Store. How did you become kind of the voice of the UFC?
Well, I started in 1997. I was the post-fight interviewer. That was it was just a position that was available, and the UFC was very small back then. Very few people knew what it was. It was off a cable. You couldn't get it on cable. You could only get it on satellite. and they needed someone to do post-fight interviews.
But
So
you were in that world to begin with?
I was in the martial arts world. You know, I used to teach martial arts for a living before I became a comedian. I used to fight. Fought in a lot of Taekwondo tournaments and had some kickboxing fights, and I'd always been a martial artist since I was a kid. And so I just was interested in watching the UFC, and then I started training in jiu-jitsu. And when I was training in jiu-jitsu, I was just a white belt. I was just starting out. That's when I got hired by the UFC to be a post-fight interviewer. But I only did that for 2 years, and then I quit. It was just too much, and it was actually like I was losing money. I would make more money doing a weekend at a comedy club than I would doing the UFC. And it just got to a point where it was too much of a pain in the ass. And so I still remained a fan, but I backed away. And then the UFC was purchased by this company called Zuffa in 2001. And when that happened, they started putting on shows in Vegas, and I would go there with my friends. They got me free tickets. They reached out, and they would try to get celebrities to go sit there so that it would, because they were very small at the time, and they were hemorrhaging money, and they were trying to build it up. And in talking to Dana White, one day I was talking to him about fights going on in Japan. I'm like, have you ever seen Sato fight? Do you know do you know Sakura? Do you know this guy? And I was bringing all these names, and he was like, do you want to do commentary? I'm like, I don't want to do commentary, man. I'm here to get drunk and watch people kick the shit out of each other. I'm not here to work. And he talked me into it for one show, UFC 37.5. It was a show that was on one of those Fox sports networks, smaller networks. And I think it was the best damn sports show, period, was a part of it. I did that, and the rest was history.
Wow.
And then I did like 12 of them for free. Like, the UFC didn't have any money. They were hemorrhaging money. I mean, there were rich people that owned it, but it was not a profitable venture.
Yeah.
And I said, look, just get me there, get me my friends' tickets, and I'll do it. And so that's how I operated for like over a year. And then I just became the commentator. It's just weird.
That's crazy.
It's just Dana White. He's a crazy man, and he's got a weird way of looking at things that's very effective. And in his crazy mind, he's like, let's take this guy who's never even thought about being a commentator and make him our commentator. I mean, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I mean, I didn't have any training at all in sports commentary. I just would see what was happening and start talking about it. Which is really like the wrong. I was more even play-by-play and color. It was like doing both of them at the same time. It was really weird.
And as far as you doing that, do you get any notes from anybody going, hey, Joe, try this, try that, or you just develop that voice all on your own?
100% on my own.
So
the only thing that I had was there's like Mark Delagrate, who's a good friend of mine. He's one of the top trainers in the world. He's in the truck, and I can communicate with him. There's a button where I can communicate with him, and we talk about stuff. Like, I can say, does he look like he's limping to you? And he's like, yeah, there's something wrong with his leg. I go, the left leg, right? He's like, yeah. And then I'll start talking about it. Like, I'll be able to bounce it back and forth with him. Or sometimes it's obvious, and I'll say it myself, then I'll ask him, like, am I wrong? Is he dropping his hand? Or is it like... It's a nice thing to have someone to bounce things off. It used to be Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo used to do it as well, where I would be able to talk to him about certain positions because he would be in the truck, and I'd be able to ask him like which his left leg's in jeopardy right now, right? Or he needs to step over with his right leg. We'd be able to go over, because like there's some aspects of martial arts that are extremely technical, especially jiu-jitsu, when things go to the ground and you're trying to do commentary, and I have to decipher which is his left leg, which is his right leg, where's he tied up, where's he tangled, and I'm doing it in real time while I'm trying to be entertaining and talking. It's very complicated, but nobody taught me how to do it. I just figured out how to do it.
And you're not looking at like a Jim Lampley or anybody in the broadcasting world when it comes to fights this is something that you developed on your own. Like, sometimes you look at, as a comedian, you look at other comedians, say the Pryors or the Carlins or whatnot. You didn't have kind of like a mentor?
No, not necessarily, because there wasn't a lot of guys that did it for martial arts commentary. There was John Peretti, who was excellent. He was one of the very best, who was actually the UFC matchmaker and a commentator when I first started. He was very good. There's a guy named Jeff Armstrong. He was very good too. He was there when I first started too. He actually ran a promotion called Hook and Shoot. He's excellent. He really knows what he's doing. And then there's a few other guys, you know, that also did it. But there's like what I do as far as like doing commentary for MMA. There's maybe 10 guys in the world that do it.
Yeah.
You know, that really do it on a high level. Maybe 10 guys.
Wow.
I mean, between ONE FC, between Brave, and then the UFC, Bellator, PFL, there's maybe 10 guys on the planet that are doing it, which is not a lot of people.
No.
And there's a lot in the UFC now where fighters are now transitioning to become commentators, and oftentimes they're the best at it. Like Michael Bisping just did this past weekend. He was the UFC middleweight champion, and he's awesome at it already. Did one show. They know more, obviously, because they've been in there. You know, they have that added element of actually having fought in the UFC, which is gigantic.
Yeah, I could see. I think Paulie Malignaggi. He seems to be very, very
fantastic.
knowledgeable. Yeah.
He's very good. Very technical, but also very aware. And fighters can see things that maybe the average person can't see. Like they see when someone's slowing down. They see when someone's laying back. They see when someone got hurt to the body. They see like little things that maybe a person who's never fought before doesn't see.
Yeah, the knowledge is key, and plus the excitement level too. I mean, when someone gets hit, for the announcer to like react to that in a real way. For an audience member, it's like, you know, it's exciting.
Yeah. No, that's what's up. Yeah, like if someone's boring and bland and they don't really care what's going on, like the audience feels it, and they feel it when you're faking it too.
Yeah.
If you try to pump it up and fake it. Do you have any other hobbies outside of comedy and?
I'm not a big hobby guy, but growing up, my parents always used to say, "What are you interested in? Do you do anything?" So
well, they got to be happy now, right?
Yeah, no.
They're like, "Holy shit! Look, it worked out."
My hobby is stand-up comedy. Really, I mean, I like to cook. Don't get me wrong. I like to travel. My wife and I really, really enjoy going to different places, and I love hotels. It's, I mean, these aren't really hobbies. It's just. I like hospitality, so that's my passion. I like having people over at the house and making them feel good. That's what I like to do. I like to entertain. If I find out you like a specific drink or you like something that's, I take notice of what people like. So when you come to my house, I got what you like there.
That's very Italian.
It's very, very Italian. And I've always had, I work for the Four Seasons Hotel, and that chain taught me to anticipate people's needs. So anytime I have anything at my house, whether it be a birthday party, a get-together, if it's going to be a fight, I make sure when you come over, you are taken care of not only with your alcohol needs. Here's one. I ain't a pot guy, right? I don't smoke pot.
You want to start?
Listen. But I got pot at the house just in case you want some.
Really?
So I thought, you have alcohol, you have beer,
right?
You have scotch, you have wine.
Right.
So what if someone doesn't have a taste for alcohol and they want a joint?
Wow.
I got a couple of joints.
Where you get it from? PDC, from the Comedy Store?
I think I got it from
Gino from LA Speedweed.
No, I think it's what's the MedMen?
Yeah, MedMen.
Yeah, I went in there.
You went in there specifically just for hospitality.
Hospitality. I mean, come on. If you came over and I go, Joe, you want a joint? And you're like, yeah, you want to smoke it? No, I don't smoke, but here, have at it. Just to have.
Right.
Even a cigar. I got cigar. I don't smoke cigars. You want one? I got it. I don't know. I get joy in making others happy.
So when you looked at your house, did you look at your house and go, "This is a good house to entertain in"?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I always see that, like when you see like a YouTube video on a home and they're showing the home, so a wonderful entertainer's home, like an entertainer's home.
That's what
Wait,
do.
What does that mean? A singer? Fuck that mean? Guys playing the piano? What does that mean?
I like a living room that bleeds into the kitchen. All right, that's I like that.
Right.
There's not really a wall in between
Yeah.
the two. It's got to be, and then I like indoor, outdoor. You live in California. I like the ability
Yes.
to go outside. Maybe you want to have a drink outside and bring it back in.
Yeah.
I just like the different. That's what they're talking about when it's an entertainment. I like a fire outside.
Oh, yeah. A little fire pit.
Fire pit.
Do you try to bring people, like if you have a party, do you try to bring people over that you think would have interesting conversations?
Yes, although we have a problem at this particular point. We're in a transition period. We have a child, so I don't know if you went through this, but a lot of sometimes when you're coming from not a single couple, but a couple with no kids, and now you have kids, now you're finding other people who have kids,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we're in. We're not yet into the preschool. So we're kind of in limbo. We're looking for new friends.
Right.
Not that our old friends are bad. It's just now we have other obligations. We have a child. We maybe can't go out to dinner at 8 o'clock at night like we used to. Now we're looking to bring it to the house.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. We went through that exact same transition, and a lot of times you pick up some dead weight along the way. You run into these people, and the only thing they have in common is the kids are the same age, and then you
Yeah.
have to talk to some fucking guy. Oh, and they give you ear beatings about their job. And
Yeah.
you're just like, you just, some people are just not interesting. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you do run into that where
Yeah.
you meet a guy. Like I went to a toddler group last week. Now, sometimes I do this obviously because I want to hang out with my daughter, but sometimes the material that comes out of going to something like that is gold.
Yeah.
Now it's me, 15 women, and a gay guy at this toddler group, right? So I mean, it's just like it's almost writing. It like writes itself.
Yeah.
Although I'm in a circle, sitting Indian style. Hell, I mean, it's strange, but man, that's the things I want to do because I feel if I live more of my life, I could draw so much more humor from it. And
Sure,
it's two pronged. I want to hang out with my family, and I want to talk to people who are living these life experiences. Because what I've noticed is I want to keep the same kind of lifestyle I've had when I wasn't successful. Because I feel when you start detaching yourself from the daily routine, let's say even going to Target, if you have somebody go to Target for you, you miss out on like what happens on a day-to-day, and I want to still keep that rich and available to me.
That's very wise of you. That's very true. That is something that happens when people become more and more famous, especially. They become more reluctant to go places. Like they don't want to just go to the mall. You know, like sometimes you just got to go to the mall.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to
It's
be
good.
around weirdos.
It's good.
It is.
Well, I think it was you. Yeah, it was you saying that, like, if you were out at a restaurant and somebody comes up to you and asks for a picture, because everybody wants a picture nowadays to prove they met Joe Rogan and what have you. And sometimes it's a little intrusive when you're having dinner with your daughters or your family, and then it's like, you know.
I've had people ask me for pictures while my daughter's on my lap and I'm feeding her.
Yeah, I had
And I'm
that
like, look,
too.
man, you can't. You got to get the fuck out of here. Because the problem is you take that picture with that guy, and then someone says, oh, I want a picture too, and then you get 10 people to get up. And that sounds braggy, but it's not. It's a weird thing that happens with people with phones. Half those people don't even give a fuck about you. They really just want to take a picture with someone that they saw, you know, on Fear Factor or whatever, and they just, oh, there he is. Let me take a picture with him, and they come over to your table. And they seem to think that it's part of the job, that you have to be, every time you're in public, you have to be available to them. It's a very weird, like, rule that people have decided. Some fairly ignorant people have decided. So that's why they would think that even with my daughter on my lap, and I was literally putting food into her mouth, and a guy was like, "Hey man, can I get a picture?" Like, this is not a good time.
Yeah.
This is not a smart thing to ask, and it's why certain people are reluctant to go out in the first place. Why they're reluctant to go out in public.
But do you feel an obligation at all to your fan base to make yourself available to them if
If I'm not with my kids, yeah.
Yeah. So do you generally turn down any photos or autographs?
It has to be an extenuating circumstance for me to say no.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something wrong. Like if someone, if someone is somewhere where they're not supposed to be. Like I had a guy come backstage at the Comedy Store. We made it backstage all the way to the back, and he's talking, and I'm like, I was asking the other comics, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? Who is this guy? I go, who are you, man? And he's like, oh, I'm friends with this guy. I go, so you just walked back here? I'm like, you got to get the fuck out of here. Like, get out of here, man. And then the security comes and kicks the guy out. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, there's no security here? Like, that guy didn't ask for a photo, but if he did, I'd probably take a picture with that motherfucker. But I'd probably take a picture with him out there.
Yeah.
It's, if you're in a rush, if you're trying to go somewhere and you're literally running and someone wants to pull their phone out, like sometimes you can't. Yeah. But most of the time, if I'm by myself, I'm very approachable.
Yeah.
It's just family stuff. It's just like, my kids don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, especially my youngest daughter. She does not like it. She gets angry. She squeezes my hand because people ignore her and they just start talking to me and she's just standing there, and 8-year-olds have zero patience. Mm-hmm. She's just sitting there going, boring. She doesn't give a fuck if they know me. Like, to her, I'm just dad.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if I'm famous. It doesn't mean anything to her. What it means to her is, like, when she's with me, she likes attention. She wants me to talk to her about stuff. We have a nice little relationship.
Yeah.
I love having little people. It's fun. It's like it's for people that are single, and I think it all depends on where you are in life and how reflective you are about it. But for people that are single, they look at it, and I know I did. They look at it as a potential burden. Because when I was a kid, I thought of myself as a burden. So I think of other children as a burden. But then you have them yourself, and the love that you have for them is indescribable. It's this crazy feeling that you didn't even know was in the menu before. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you have this crazy feeling to this little person. It's your favorite thing to do.
Yeah, it is amazing. And to echo those thoughts, I wasn't a big kid guy. I was like, I don't really need kids.
Yeah.
But then you have them and you're like, man, what a missing this would be if you go through life and you don't have a child. And I'm not saying you need to have a child to be complete, but for me, man, it's been fantastic. And having a baby boy now coming on the way is, it's great. I mean, it's not a burden. It just adds to your life. Yeah, it's responsibility. It's
overwhelming responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about you. It's about them, and you have to have a sense of, I don't know. You got to give them the time they need in order for them to succeed in life, and. My parents gave me a lot of attention. I mean, my dad was the type of guy that was not really around because he was working, and my mom was kind of managing the house. But over the course of time, my father and I have become best friends. I mean, he's a huge critic of what I do for a living. I don't know if you have parents that are heavily involved in your career, but man, my father, he's taking notes at the show. So he's one of these guys. He'll tell me if I suck. I mean, it's good. It keeps me level-headed. I have a family that is very, very honest, and they don't pull any punches. And
people confuse that with being cruel.
What, honesty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen. My father and my relationship with my father has been, and I had to tell him. I said, Dad, just could you come to just be a fan and not like a father? Just enjoy the show. You don't have to, critique it, which, he has backed off, but I know deep down he's dying to tell me something. Dying. I mean, I know when I do something on TV, and if he don't say nothing about it, he don't like it. Let's say if you listen to this interview and then we talk and he doesn't bring it up, I know he's gonna say, you sucked. It's no good.
Boring.
Why
shut it off?
Why people want to listen to you? He'll give it to me.
But that's also why you're so funny, because you grew up with that. It's part of the whole program.
Totally. totally. I mean, I think that's a huge reason why I am the way I am, because I'm kind of honest when I'm talking about comedy on stage. The honesty is, to me, the funniest stuff I got is just the truth. And if you don't speak the truth, then I don't think it's particularly funny, at least in my life. But to come from that, my sister, my wife, they'll tell me.
Yeah, my wife will tell me too. My wife's fucking funny. She's hilarious. She says ridiculous shit all the time, and she's getting good at it. Like she likes to make me laugh. So like she'll point at something, she'll look at this motherfucker, and then we'll both start cracking up. That's huge too. And she'll tell me like, if you seemed a little off tonight. I'm like, yeah, this new shit's, especially when I have new material, man, it's slippery.
Oh, yeah.
New material's like, I can't quite try to grab a hold of it. I know something's there, and the only thing that makes it better is trial and error. It's the only thing that makes it better. It's the only thing. Just fucking constantly doing sets, I know you're at the store all the time. Are you working other clubs as well around town?
No, I just like the store.
The motherland.
Just that stage in the original room, for whatever reason, I feel the most comfortable and the most creative.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I won't do the Ice House or stuff like that, but it's easy. It's kind of near where I live. I bounce in, I bounce out, and I like doing it there. And I used to bring my wife there when we didn't have a baby. And my wife, I think, and I don't know if your wife has, do you think your humor has like bled into your wife's? Because my wife's looking at the world completely different.
Like a comic. Yeah, my wife's like a comic. Yeah, she thinks like a comic.
Yeah, so definitely.
It's natural. If you're around comics all the time, you think like comics. Mm-hmm. Like when comics come over the house, she's always fucking with them. It's hilarious. She'll start poking fun at them, and she gets a kick out of it. Yeah. And when she's with her friends, she's absolutely the one who's always talking shit and making people laugh.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's the most fun group of people to be around. When we're all at the store, when we all see each other, I mean, that's one of the things that makes me feel so fortunate, is that I have so many friends that are hilarious. Like when I go there, I see these guys, and I know that we're gonna have some fun. Mm-hmm. We're gonna do sets, but we're also gonna hang out in that back bar and talk shit and laugh a lot. It's a great, friendly environment,
Totally. And I like to laugh. I love to laugh. So when I go to the Comedy Store, I don't really. If I'm around comedians, I don't say much, because I'd rather sit back and enjoy what's happening in front of me than actually be a part of it. Because for me, I make people laugh all the time, and to be around 5 or 6 comedians in the parking lot of the Comedy Store and watch whatever. You go off on a tangent, or Callan start, doing his thing. I just sit back and enjoy it. I don't like to speak around.
I like to go when I'm in the main room. I like to go into the OR and sit in the back and watch the show sometimes too. When I know I'm not going up at all that night in that room, I like to do that. I like to be an audience member. I still really enjoy that. I still really enjoy just sitting in the back with a drink and just laughing.
It's great. It's a great thing to be a part of.
You know who's fucking murdering it these days? Neil Brennan. Neil Brennan's on fire right now. He's on fire.
He's doing really, really well. I think that special on Netflix, The Three Mics, has really opened himself up to performing in front of large audiences. And he's always been a real funny cat,
Yes.
I mean,
always been real funny, but he's in a new zone right now. I was watching him the other night in the OR. I was sitting in the back. I'm like, God damn, this new stuff is good.
Oh, really? That's good to hear.
That's just it's such a great hot spot. There's so much good comedy going on in that place, whether it's Santino's been murdering lately, Hinchcliffe's been killing it. There's just so many good comics there. It's like just you feel like it's fuel, it's inspiration.
Oh yeah, you walk in and see some guy going up, and you're like, man, that's some funny stuff, and you feel inspired to go and go, yeah, I'm gonna write something new or what have you. It's nice. It's a nice community to be a part of, that Comedy Store. It's really helped me over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's very unique, And I showed you that painting that Taylor made. That I posted up on Instagram. That's the painting of Mitzi. I think I'm gonna put that motherfucker right there.
That's nice.
Have Mitzi watch over us.
Yeah, this whole thing you got going on here, and I don't know if you talk about it much. I don't know if you're private about it, but even being here in this studio is inspiring. When you were showing me what you have and whatnot, I'm like, man. See, I've always looked at people who have things, or whether it be if you have a nice home or a nice car or whatever it is, a nice family, I always inspire to do that. I don't begrudge anybody that has a lot. I've always looked at it as I want to be where that person is, opposed to, you know, being bitter.
Yeah, that's very healthy.
Yeah, I mean, man, just having a treadmill, whatever it is, the treadmill you showed me, man, that's not. I want to get something like that. I mean, I just always looked. I want to be around people who, you know, are inspiring.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best things about this podcast. I get a chance to talk to really interesting people in all walks of life. And, you know, it's weird, all the worlds mixed together. But all those interesting, inspirational people, it's definitely made me more aware and smarter, 100%. Made me more aware of things, made me reconsider my positions on things, made me, like we're talking about David Goggins. I mean, I just think about that guy and I want to work out harder. You know, I do.
Well, there's a part in the book, I think he went to support his either mother or sister in a race, and then in Las Vegas, and then I think he just took off and left. You know, like he was there for them. Isn't there a part where he just like he was in dress shoes and he just started running?
That's him, man.
I was like,
he's a
man.
fucking savage. He's a legit. And what's great about him, one of my favorite parts about David Goggins, is that he's real honest about who he used to be. That he was like 300 pounds and fat and lazy, and he's drinking milkshakes, and he just was depressed and couldn't get his shit together. And then he hardened himself up through some strange force of will, and became that guy. Decided he wanted to become that guy who is, as he puts it, uncommon amongst uncommon men. You know, that he just decided, I'm going to be the motherfucker of motherfuckers. And then he's so much like that when people around him are like, oh, Jesus. Because he's so fucking intense. It's like, you got to ramp it up, too. Like, oh, I'm not ready for Goggins right now. I was going to do 20 sit-ups and 20 chin-ups and 20 push-ups, and I was going to go home. This motherfucker wants to run till we die.
Yeah.
You know, but those people, I don't know how many people Goggins has inspired that listen to this podcast, and all of a sudden they're out there hustling. And they're out there doing things on a level that they never did before. And they're putting in that work and exerting themselves in that way. You know, and he rubs some people the wrong way because of that, because he's so aggressive and intense. Some people are just reluctant to be inspired by a guy like that.
Yeah.
They're almost like it's too much.
Well, he's been there. He's been there. You know, he's been in the basement of life. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, 300 pounds didn't really come from. You know, the father was, and he willed himself out of it. So I mean, if he could do it, you know, why can't I run another mile and a half? And,
Yeah. There's a video that I listened to from my friend Jocko Willink, who's a Navy SEAL commander, and he's got this video, and it just says, I think it's called Good, because it's how he looks at everything. Oh, you hurt your ankle. Good. More time to work on other things. You know, you didn't get to promotion. Good. Like, everything's good. Everything. Good. That's like how he looks at things.
Wow.
And I've been, like, running hills, halfway fucking dead, exhausted, can't breathe. It's like, oh, your lungs are on fire? Good. You got an opportunity to get in better shape. Like, good. Keep pushing. This is what it's all about.
Yes.
Good. This is an opportunity to face the intensity of this moment. You got to play that. Play that video. Just to freak Sebastian out. Because this is something I listen to this like
one of my guys that worked for me.
every 3 or 4
He
months.
would call me up or pull me aside
as
with some
Jocko.
major problem, some issue that was going on. And he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem. And he said, I already know what you're going to say. And I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good. And I said, well, yeah. When things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
Come on. Don't you want to just go run through a fucking wall right now?
Hey, Joe.
Good. I think of that all the time. That's a legit thing that bounces around in my head when I'm tired, when something's wrong in my life. I think good. Don't be a bitch. Look at this the right way. Things are gonna go wrong.
Yeah, totally.
They always do. If they don't, you're not trying anything unusual.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing anything difficult. You're not stretching yourself out.
Yeah, I like looking at videos like that and being introduced to guys like that. I mean, that's how I got introduced to Goggins. Someone played a video of him. There's Dr. Eric Thomas, who's a motivational speaker who I love listening to. I like listening to people who get me motivated. I need that.
Yeah.
You know?
Jocko's got a great podcast, too.
That guy's a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, he's a motherfucker. He's a very interesting cat, extremely intelligent, but just as manly as they come, you know, and just fucking owns it. And you see that guy talk. One of the reasons why that's so inspirational is because that's really him. Mm-hmm. You go to his Instagram every day, there's a photograph of his watch at 4:30 in the morning, because that's when he gets up to train. Trains by himself, and then he'll take a photo of the puddle that's on the ground after he's done, and then he earns the sunrise. So he gets up and he goes to the fucking beach and he sees the sun come up after he's done training. He's a savage. That's a real savage.
There's these guys that get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like, what happened to taking a nap?
Well, he'll take a nap later. But the point is, he makes himself, like, there's nothing wrong with taking a nap for recovery.
I know, but this is dedication.
Look at his whole fucking Instagram is pictures of his watch. He's a fucking animal.
Man.
But he's really doing it, too. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, like a very high-level black belt. He's tapped some world-class competitors. And fucking great guy, too.
Cool. I'll definitely check
He was a
that guy
guest
out.
on Tim Ferriss's podcast. That's how I heard about him. Then I had him on mine, and me and Tim both convinced him to do his own podcast. Now it's hugely popular. He's got
cool.
a great book out. What is it? Extreme Ownership. Yeah, he's fantastic.
All right, I'll definitely look at him.
Yeah, people like that are so important because they give you just that little push. They change the frequency of your brain and make you gets you fired up. You can accomplish a lot of things because of people like that. You know, there's extra gears to be had, extra horsepower to be put to things.
Totally.
Good. Yeah. So now that you've done, 4 sold-out shows in Madison Square Garden, I mean, this is the fucking pinnacle of any stand-up comic's career. There's only a handful of comics that have ever been able to do that. There's like Dice, Louis C.K., there's a few others. I mean, you're in a rare place. Do you have other goals, or are you just working on maintaining and continuing to put on good shows for your fans?
That's been the goal. I'm not a goal guy. I don't say, hey, this is my goals this year. I never planned on doing Madison Square Garden. My only goal when I got into this business was to do it for a living. I want to do stand-up comedy for a living. And now wherever it takes me, it takes me. It took me to the Garden. I'm not looking at my vision board and doing the Vatican next. I think it's
you don't believe in The Secret?
Wherever this takes me, it takes me. To do the Madison Square Garden was fabulous. It was a great experience. Nothing quite like the rush of going out in front of 18,000 people in the round and you know, having your family witness it. My mother, when she walked into the arena, started crying. You know, she was there when I
Can
was
you imagine being her? You gave birth to this little tiny baby.
Yeah.
And this little tiny baby got 4 sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden.
It hit her. It hit her hard. And, you know,
It must have hit you, too, to see it hit her.
Oh, man. Listen, I'm an emotional guy. So to see I brought my little baby and Lana on stage for a photo at the end of it. I brought my father on stage. I brought my mother and my sister on stage to kind of like share in that moment.
Wow.
So yeah, when my mother walked in an empty arena and saw it, you know, she had flashbacks to in 1998 when I did Zanies and we had to get, you know, friends and family there to fill the audience, you know. And then now she walks in and her son's doing 4 of these. You know, it was a great. I'm so glad my parents were alive to see that. It would have been a shame if they weren't there, because they've been on this journey from the beginning. These are parents who, when I told them in 1996 that I was going to go out to Los Angeles to pursue a stand-up career, didn't look at me and go, "What are you, nuts?" They looked at me and go, "Hey, you know what? If you think you got what it takes, get the hell out there. Don't put yourself a time limit." You know, some people say, if I don't do it in 5 years, I'm going to quit or whatever. So when I came out here, it was all in. You know, if I said 5 years, I wouldn't have been here. I would have been back in Chicago working at Motorola. Who knows?
Yeah.
So family's always been really, really key to my success. Having people who are very supportive, and my wife, who's a huge, huge reason I am doing what I'm doing. I mean, you know, to have a wife to deal with the life of a comedian on the road, away from home a lot. I mean, you got to have like a strong woman to be in your corner and to put up with that.
Also, just to deal with the weirdo. A fucking comic's a weird person.
Yeah, I mean, just the mentality of a comedian is tough to be around. Not tough. It's just, you know, we're always you know, in our own heads sometimes. So yeah. So to answer your question, where do I go from here? I don't know. I'm enjoying doing some movies. I just started dipping my toe into some of these movies. The Green Book, which is out now and nominated for some awards for the Oscars. Happy to be a part of that. And then I like it. Exercising a different muscle when it comes to acting, but not comedic acting. I like the dramas.
How come?
I'm a serious guy. Generally speaking, I'm not a goofball. I'm not the guy always the center of attention. That's just not who I am. So I like kind of being serious and acting in a drama kind of plays to kind of who I am. It's kind of a serious guy. And I like it. I get my fix from doing the stand-up on stage. I don't need to do it in a movie. So I like the challenge, number one. And number two, I just like to do different things, a little bit outside the box. So I like doing. I mean, did this gangster movie coming out with Scorsese and
No shit.
yeah,
What is that?
It's called.
You got to work with Scorsese?
Yeah, so it's called The
Holy
Irishman.
shit. The
So-
Irishman. What is it about?
It's about basically Jimmy Hoffa and how they killed him. This guy, De Niro plays the Irishman. Jimmy Hoffa's played by Pacino. Pesci's in the movie. So, and I played Crazy Joe Gallo. And my first day on the set was with De Niro and Pesci. So
What the fuck was that like?
Look
at that.
Yeah. So I was shitting. I mean, there's no
Who is that on the left?
Pacino.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just that photograph, but that barely looks like him.
I know. This is coming out on Netflix.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How different he looks. Wow. That's
nuts.
a Netflix movie, huh?
Yeah.
Fucking Netflix, huh?
Yeah, it's like a $145 million project, and
Jesus.
it's coming out in October.
Dude, what is it like to just be around Scorsese on a movie set and realize you're a fucking actor in a Scorsese movie? That's got to be. I mean, that is about as high level as it's like either Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese. There's like a few people that if you're on a set with them, you know, Kubrick when he was alive, it's like holy shit.
That was a holy shit moment for me. Listen, I am by no stretch of the imagination a seasoned actor, and then to get thrown into this group of people and working with them. I mean, I got to tell you, there was a sense of doubt. Like, you know, sometimes like, should I be here? You know, is this happening? And then, you know, to do the scene with De Niro and Pesci, it was almost like after the first scene, I'm like, oh yeah, I should be here. It's all the anticipation of leading up to the moment that is unfamiliar to you. Then once you do it, you feel like, man, that was all in my head, and I made it sound like it was going to be, you know, because I always think in the negative too. I always think, oh, I'm going to screw this up, and this.
Yeah.
That's what motivates me. I never look in the positive. I always come from a negative place. But once I did that first scene with them, and these guys were more than helpful. Working with them. I mean, Scorsese, when he came out, it was friendly, nice. You know, it was encouraging to be around that kind of positive energy.
Did you have a hard time sleeping the night before?
Oh yeah, I didn't sleep. I don't think for the first week leading up to the scene, because I knew it was going to be with De Niro and Pesci. What they did was they took Gotham Comedy Club in New York City and they made it the Copacabana, which I thought was fitting because Gotham Comedy Club is kind of where I did all my stand-up in New York. I didn't really do any other club but Gotham. And then here,
great club.
Great club. Mazzilli brothers who run it are
Love those
fantastic guys. And they transformed the Gotham Comedy Club into the Copacabana. And Don Rickles is played by Jim Norton.
No shit.
So I'm watching him on stage with. It's just crazy. I mean, it's like
Norton's a perfect Rickles. I'm just thinking about that. He's perfect for that.
He really did a fantastic job. Really, really did a great job.
I mean, even his smile is almost like Rickles-esque.
Yeah, they gave him.
Look at him. Oh, that's fantastic.
It's great casting. Great casting.
Wow. I mean, come on. Who the fuck else would be better? You had to get him fat. Did they fatten him up?
Yeah, they fattened him up.
Did they give him makeup to fatten up, or they make him eat?
They made him. I think they made him bald, and they gave him a fat suit.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
I mean, the Jim Norton's a guy known for over 20 years, and now I'm sitting there watching him as Don Rickles in a movie. It was just blowing my mind. Just blowing my mind. But this thing is going to be, I can't wait to see it. I didn't see any of the movie, even when I was doing it. I didn't even look at what I was doing. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what this thing looks like. God
damn, that's phenomenal. What a milestone. A movie with De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, a fucking